When a billionaire gives 3 women unlimited money, their choices reveal everything about their hearts. The moment Peter saw what his maid bought with unlimited money, his world shattered forever. But let me start from the beginning, because what happened next changed everything he thought he knew about love, loyalty, and the price of a human soul. The morning sun painted gold across the marble floors of Peter's penthouse. Outside, the city buzzed with life. Inside, silence wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Peter stood at the window, coffee growing cold in his hands, watching people chase dreams 40 floors below. He was worth $3 billion. His face graced magazine covers. Presidents called him for advice. But standing there, Peter felt like the loneliest man alive. "Your car is ready, sir," came a soft voice. Peter turned. Mary, his maid for 2 years, stood by the doorway. Her gray uniform was pressed neat, hair pulled back simple. She never looked him in the eye. "Thank you, Mary," he said. She disappeared like a shadow. Peter's phone buzzed. A text from Lisa, his girlfriend. "Miss you, baby. Dubai is amazing. Can't wait to show you what I bought." 3 heart emojis followed. He didn't reply. He was tired of being seen as a walking bank account. His assistant Kate entered, tablet in hand. "Morning. Peter. Your schedule is..." "Clear it all," Peter said, walking past her. "Everything? Even Lisa's dinner tonight?" "Everything." Kate blinked but nodded. "Of course." Peter shut himself in his study. On the desk sat a photo of his parents, both gone now. His mother's words echoed, "Marry someone who builds, not someone who just shines." He picked up a pen and wrote 3 names. Lisa, Kate, Mary. 3 women. 3 different roles in his life. But which one truly cared about him? An idea formed. Dangerous maybe, but necessary. Peter called his security chief. "James, I need something done quietly." "Yes, sir." "I'm giving 3 women unlimited access to my money. I want to know everything they do with it." Silence. Then, "Understood." Peter hung up and stared at the 3 names again. Tomorrow he would learn who they really were. The test begins. Peter worked until midnight, preparing 3 black cards. Each one had no limit. Each envelope held the same message. "Use this however you want. You have 3 days. Consider it a gift." The next morning, he met Lisa at the helipad. She stepped out of a black car, blonde hair shining, designer dress hugging her curves. Her smile was perfect, practiced. "Baby!" She wrapped her arms around his neck. "You've been so distant." Peter smiled, but his eyes stayed cold. "I have something for you." He handed her the envelope. Lisa's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "What's this?" "A gift. No rules. 3 days. Spend how you like." She squealed and kissed his cheek. "You're the best. This is exactly what I needed." She was already dialing her friends before her car pulled away. She hadn't even asked why. That afternoon, Kate walked into his office, heels clicking on marble. "I cleared your schedule," she said, setting down her tablet. "And here's the quarterly report." Peter handed her the second envelope. Kate raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" "A bonus. For your hard work. Unlimited credit for 3 days." Her practiced smile appeared. "That's very generous. You've earned it." The look in her eyes was calculating. Within an hour, she had booked a luxury hotel suite and scheduled meetings with his competitors. Mary found her envelope on the kitchen counter with a note. "This is for you, Mary. No strings attached. You deserve it." She stared at it for a long time before knocking on his study door. "Mr. Peter, I think this was left by mistake." "No mistake. It's for you." "But sir, I don't understand. Did I do something wrong?" He almost smiled. "No, you've done everything right. Just take a few days. Do something for yourself. "I don't need anything, sir." "I know, but take it anyway." She looked uncertain, afraid almost. "All right. Thank you." Unlike the others, Mary seemed to see the card not as an opportunity, but as a burden. Day 1. The truth unfolds. That night, James called with the first report. Lisa spent $32,000 today. Luxury boutiques, jewelry, yacht rental for tomorrow. Peter's jaw clenched. Kate booked a photo shoot and scheduled brunch with your competitors. Expected. And Mary? Peter held his breath. She bought groceries, paid 2 months' rent, donated to an orphanage. And sir, she bought 4 meals and gave them to homeless people on 8th Street. Peter's throat tightened. She barely used the card? Less than 1%. When the call ended, Peter sat in silence. No flashy dresses. No networking events. No yacht parties. Just a woman with a kind heart feeding people who had nothing. Day 2. The revelation. The second day brought more painful truths. Lisa's Instagram exploded with photos. Designer bags, champagne lunches, diamond jewelry. She posted videos with hashtags like #richlife and #spoiled. In one video, she and her friends laughed at their waiter's accent. Kate met with 3 executives from rival companies. She introduced herself as Peter's closest advisor and hinted at inside information. Mary visited the children's hospital. She paid off a neighbor's cancer treatment. Then she went to the old orphanage on 6th Street, bringing books and art supplies. The security footage showed her sitting on the floor with 3 kids. One fell asleep in her lap while she gently rubbed his back. Peter stared at the photos. Mary didn't know she was being watched. She wasn't performing. She was just being herself. And her whole day cost less than Lisa's earrings. Day 3. The confrontation. On the final day, Peter called all 3 women to dinner. The dining room was set with crystal and gold, but the atmosphere was tense. Lisa arrived in a red dress, bored and checking her phone. Kate wore a sharp black suit, calculating as always. Mary sat in a simple cream blouse, uncomfortable and out of place. "So what's the occasion?" Lisa asked, twirling her wine glass. "We're celebrating honesty," Peter said quietly. Lisa smirked. "Sounds serious." "It is." Peter looked at each of them. 3 days ago, I gave each of you a card. I told you it was a gift. It was also a test." The room went silent. "I needed to know the truth. Not from what you tell me, but from what you do when no one's watching. You tracked us." Kate asked, her voice sharp. "I observed you. And now I want to share what I learned." Lisa scoffed. "Oh please, Peter. You gave me money and told me to enjoy myself. Don't act like this was some deep experiment." Peter's eyes went cold. "You spent $86,000 in 3 days. You bought 5 pairs of designer shoes. You tipped a man $500 just for parking your car, then told your friends he was cute for a peasant." Lisa's face flushed red. He turned to Kate. "You spent the money networking with my competitors. You introduced yourself as my closest advisor and hinted at confidential information." Kate sat straighter but said nothing. Finally, Peter looked at Mary. She was staring at her hands, tears in her eyes. "And Mary." His voice softened. "You spent $200. You paid for your neighbor's medicine. You bought food for homeless people. You donated to children who have nothing." Mary looked up, confused. I thought I did something wrong." "No," Peter said, his voice breaking slightly. "You did everything right." The room fell silent except for the tick of the grandfather clock. Lisa stood up suddenly. "This is ridiculous. So what if I bought nice things? That's what money is for." "Is it?" Peter asked. "Is that all I am to you? A credit card?" "Don't be dramatic," Lisa snapped. But her eyes gave her away. Kate cleared her throat. "Peter, I was making connections for both of us. Business is about relationships. Using my name and my secrets as currency? Kate had no answer. Peter stood and walked to Mary. She looked terrified. Mary, why did you pay for Mrs. Johnson's cancer treatment? Because she's sick and has no money. Her grandbaby needs her. And the homeless men? They were hungry. It was cold. And you needed my permission for none of this? She shook her head, tears falling. I just did what felt right. Peter felt his heart break and heal at the same time. He had found his answer. Lisa grabbed her purse. I don't need this drama. Call me when you're ready to be normal again. She stormed out. Kate stood more carefully. I hope you know what you're doing, Peter. She left without another word. Mary started to stand. I should go too, sir. I'm sorry if I disappointed you. Mary, wait. She stopped. You didn't disappoint me. You saved me. She looked confused. I don't understand. Peter took her hand gently. I've been surrounded by people who see dollar signs when they look at me. But you see something else. I see someone who's lonely, Mary said softly. Someone who has everything but feels like he has nothing. Peter's eyes filled with tears. How did you know? Because I was lonely too. Before I came here. This job, working for you, it gave me purpose. Not the money. Just being useful. Being needed. In that moment, Peter realized he had been looking for love in all the wrong places. It wasn't in the flash and glamour. It wasn't in the networking and climbing. It was in the quiet kindness. The gentle heart. The woman who fed strangers and comforted children and never asked for anything in return. Mary, he said, still holding her hand. Yes, sir. Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow? Not as my maid. As Mary. She smiled through her tears. I'd like that very much. And for the first time in years, Peter felt like he was home. But Mary's secret would test everything Peter thought he knew about love. 3 months later, Peter discovered something about Mary that changed everything. What he found in her old apartment would either destroy their love or prove it was real. The restaurant was small and quiet. Nothing like the fancy places Peter usually went to. Soft jazz played in the background. Candles flickered on wooden tables. Mary had chosen it, and Peter understood why. It felt real. Mary sat across from him in a simple blue dress, no makeup, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with money. You're staring, she said, smiling. Sorry. I'm still getting used to this. To what? To being happy. 3 months had passed since the dinner that changed everything. Lisa had tried calling once, asking for money for a business opportunity. Peter had blocked her number. Kate had sent professional emails, pretending nothing happened, until she finally found a new job with one of his competitors. But Mary had transformed his world. She moved out of the maid's quarters into the guest room, then slowly into his heart. She cooked breakfast while he read the news. She listened to his work problems without trying to fix them or use them. She made the huge penthouse feel like home. Peter, Mary said, reaching across the table. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever wonder about my life before? Before I worked for you? Peter paused. He realized he knew almost nothing about Mary's past. She never talked about family, friends, or where she came from. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready, he said. Mary looked down at her hands. There's something I need to show you. Tomorrow. At my old apartment. Something in her voice made Peter's chest tighten. Mary, whatever it is. Please. Just trust me. He squeezed her hand. Always. But that night, Peter couldn't sleep. What secret could gentle Mary be hiding? The secret. The next morning, Mary led Peter to a run-down part of town. The buildings were old, paint peeling, windows cracked. Peter had never been in a neighborhood like this. I lived here for 5 years, Mary said quietly, stopping in front of a narrow brick building. Before I found the job with you. They climbed 2 flights of creaky stairs. Mary pulled out an old key and opened a door marked 3B. The apartment was tiny. One room, a small kitchen, a bed that doubled as a couch. But it was spotless and filled with something Peter didn't expect. Children's drawings covered every wall. Hundreds of them. Stick figures holding hands. Houses with crooked chimneys. Flowers in impossible colors. "Mary," Peter whispered. "What is this?" Mary walked to a small desk covered with notebooks. "I ran a daycare. Here. For kids whose parents couldn't afford real childcare." Peter looked around again. The living room had tiny chairs in a circle. Bookshelves lined with picture books. A basket of toys in the corner. How many children? 15. Sometimes 20. Mary's voice was barely a whisper. Their parents worked 2-3 jobs. They had nowhere safe to leave their babies. Peter picked up a drawing. A little girl had written, "I love Miss Mary," in crooked letters. "Why didn't you tell me?" Mary sat on the small bed, shoulders shaking. "Because I failed them." "What do you mean?" "The landlord raised the rent. I couldn't afford it anymore. I had to close down. 20 families lost their daycare. Parents had to quit jobs. Some kids..." Her voice broke. "Some kids ended up alone while their parents worked. It was my fault." Peter sat beside her. "Mary, that's not your fault." "It is." Tears streamed down her face. "I should have found a way. I should have worked harder, saved more money. Instead, I gave up and took a job as your maid." Now Peter understood. The guilt in her eyes when she accepted help. The way she gave to others but never took for herself. She was punishing herself for something that wasn't her fault. "Mary, look at me." She raised her tear-stained face. "You didn't give up. You found a way to survive so you could help more people. You paid for Mrs. Johnson's cancer treatment. You fed homeless strangers. You gave those orphans books and love. But the daycare kids are not your responsibility alone." Peter stood up, an idea forming. "Mary, what if I told you we could reopen this place?" Mary blinked. "What? What if we could give these families their daycare back? Better than before." "Peter, you can't just throw money at every problem. This isn't about money." He knelt in front of her. "This is about you. About the woman who sees hungry people and feeds them. About the woman who loves children she doesn't even know." Mary stared at him. "You'd really do that?" "We'd do that. Together." For the first time since they'd arrived, Mary smiled through her tears. The return. 2 months later, the old apartment building buzzed with activity. Construction workers installed new windows. Painters covered old walls with bright, cheerful colors. The narrow hallway echoed with hammering and laughter. Peter stood in what used to be 3 separate apartments, now opened into one large, beautiful space. Sunlight streamed through new windows. The walls were painted soft yellow and green. Child-sized furniture filled the rooms. Books, toys, art supplies, and musical instruments waited for small hands. "It's perfect," Mary said, walking through the space with wonder. But Peter wasn't done. "Mary, there's something else." He led her to the front of the building. A new sign hung above the entrance. "Mary's Place, Community Childcare Center." Mary's hands flew to her mouth. "Peter." "And there's more." He handed her a folder. "This is yours. The building, the business, everything. It's in your name." Mary opened the folder and stared at the papers. "I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Because this isn't charity. This is an investment." "In what?" Peter took her hands. "In you. In us. In the woman who showed me what real love looks like." Mary started crying again, but this time they were happy tears. "There's something else," Peter said, his voice nervous now. He got down on one knee. Mary gasped. "Mary Thompson, 3 months ago you taught me that love isn't about what someone can give you. It's about what you choose to give them. He pulled out a simple ring, no huge diamond, just a classic gold band. You chose to give me kindness when I needed it most. You chose to see me as a person, not a bank account. Will you choose to marry me? Mary looked down at the man who had everything but had been willing to risk it all to find something real. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Peter. I choose you. The wedding. 6 months later, Mary's place was filled with laughter and celebration. The daycare had become a community center. Parents brought their children for care, education, and meals. Elderly neighbors came for company. Teenagers had a safe place to study. And today, it was hosting a wedding. Mary walked down the aisle between tiny chairs, wearing a simple white dress she'd chosen herself. No designer label, no $1,000 shoes. Just a woman in love, surrounded by people who loved her back. The children from the daycare threw flower petals. Mrs. Johnson, cancer-free now, cried happy tears. Even some of the homeless men Mary had fed came to watch from the back. Peter waited at the front, wearing a simple black suit. No photographer from magazines. No celebrity guests. Just the community Mary had built with her kindness. Do you take this, woman? The preacher began. But Peter was already nodding, tears in his eyes. They exchanged rings and promises. Simple words about choosing each other every day. Through good times and hard times, through wealth and poverty. When they kissed, the whole room erupted in cheers. 1 year later, Peter sat in his study, but it looked different now. Mary's books sat beside his business journals. Children's drawings covered one wall, new ones from Mary's place. The cold, lonely penthouse had become a warm home. Mary walked in, carrying their 6-month-old daughter, Grace. How was the board meeting? She asked, settling into the chair across from his desk. Good. We're expanding Mary's place to 5 more neighborhoods. Mary smiled. And the other thing? Peter grinned. The foundation approved funding for 50 more community centers across the city. All based on your model. Grace gurgled and reached for her father. Peter took her carefully, still amazed that this tiny person existed. You know what's funny? Mary said. What? Lisa called me last week. Peter looked up, surprised. She did. She wanted to know if I could get her a job. Her modeling career isn't working out. Mary shook her head. She still doesn't understand that it was never about the money. What did you tell her? That Mary's place is always looking for volunteers. If she wants to help kids, she's welcome. But she'd have to actually help, not just pose for photos. Peter laughed. I'm guessing she said no? She hung up. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Grace play with her tiny fingers. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside, everything was peaceful. Peter, Mary said quietly. Yeah. Do you ever regret it? Giving up the lifestyle, the parties, the glamour. Peter looked at his wife, holding their daughter, surrounded by the real wealth he'd found. Love, family, purpose. Never, he said. You taught me something I'd forgotten. What's that? That the richest man isn't the one with the most money. It's the one with the most love. Mary smiled and leaned over to kiss him. And in that moment, Peter knew he was the richest man alive. Epilogue. 5 years later, the community center graduation was in full swing. 20 teenagers who had grown up at Mary's place were getting their high school diplomas. Many were the first in their families to graduate. Several had college scholarships. Peter and Mary sat in the front row, watching with pride. Grace, now 5, sat between them coloring in a book. Thank you, Miss Mary, called out Jessica, who'd been coming to the center since she was 3. She was headed to nursing school in the fall. We love you, Mr. Peter, shouted Marcus, who'd earned a full scholarship to study engineering. After the ceremony, An older woman approached them. She had gray hair and kind eyes. "Excuse me, are you Peter and Mary Rafford?" "Yes," Mary said. "Can we help you?" The woman smiled. "I'm Sarah Williams from the National Community Development Foundation. We've been following your work for years." "Oh," Peter said. "Thank you. We'd like to offer you our highest honor, the Lifetime Service Award. Your model has been copied in over 200 cities. You've changed thousands of lives." Mary looked shocked. "We just did what felt right." "That's exactly why you deserve this," Sarah said. "True service comes from the heart, not from duty." As they walked home that evening, Grace skipping between them, Mary squeezed Peter's hand. "Can you believe how far we've come?" she asked. Peter thought back to that lonely morning when he'd stood at his penthouse window, surrounded by wealth but empty inside. Then he looked at Mary, at Grace, at the community they'd built together. "No," he said. "I can't believe how lucky I am." And as they walked through the neighborhood where it all began, past Mary's place with its bright lights and happy sounds, Peter realized something profound. He'd started with a test to find someone who loved him for who he was. Instead, he'd found someone who helped him become who he was meant to be. That was worth more than all the money in the world. The end. True love isn't about finding someone who wants what you have. It's about finding someone who sees who you are and helps you become who you're meant to be. What did you think of Peter and Mary's story? Let us know in the comments below.